Good afternoon by now. My name is Dotan Peltz. I'm the Vice President Sales for Athena, which is a proud member of Meir Group, which is a proud Israeli company. I'm very happy for the opportunity to stand before all of you and give you this short presentation. I'm de facto the firewall separating between you and lunch, so I will try to be swift and to the point. What we would like to take the next 20 minutes and discuss is actually something that may be a bit different, a bit different approach. And the idea is that we, in Meir, as a group, come from the world of defense, of intelligence, of government, and so on. And what we are trying to do as part of this product line and operation is actually take different techniques and different technologies and different understandings that are common in the governmental industry for many years and harness their power into the fintech technology, fintech and adjacent operations. Our understanding is that these, so to speak, high-tech capabilities that are up to now have been only restricted to government use while being used for fintech can provide, first of all, a different prism through which security personnel look at things, and secondly, can provide the right tools and the right technologies in order to address current and future challenges and cyber issues. Just in a couple of words, Meir as a group has been in the Israeli industry for several decades, founded in '82, nowadays employing more than 1,000 employees. Global presence, we will see that momentarily, and as mentioned before, a proud Israeli company. In terms of our business philosophy, we believe that we should be global. So on the one hand, we should be a global company with wide reach and so on. On the other hand, it's very important to be also local. It's very difficult to provide the level of services that we would like to provide to our customers from our headquarters in Israel. And that's why, as you can see on the map presented, we have wide reach all across the globe, including Central America and South America, including, of course, local office here in Chile. And this is our philosophy. The headquarters is in Israel, providing best of breed of our technologies and cooperations. And in the field, close to the customers, we have all the fields, all the field operations. So the different services that are to be provided to the customers are local, native tongue, quick SLA, and so on and so forth. Again, we're trying to think of everything from the prism of an intelligence organization and make the adaptation to your daily life. So I think some of my predecessors have discussed that cyber intelligence and cyber defense have to be proactive. We cannot support that claim more. In our philosophy, the proactiveness should start even before the first person puts his hand on the keyboard, because one of the major risks in this context is the human factor. This is not a secret. Many studies nowadays and statistics and so on show that major contributor for successful cyber attacks, most of the major cyber attacks that have been discussed recently, is the human factor, and that part of the initial part of the attack was done using social engineering. So if this is, let's say, an attack on an insurance company or on a bank or and so on and so forth, again, the whole thing begins before the first hacker touches his keyboard. The whole thing may start when trying to infiltrate into the organization to affect the recruitment of an employee and make sure an employee of your own, I'm the hacker in this context, is being recruited to the bank, and then I have some sort of an anchor in this operation that I'm going to exploit. So again, the human factor is the first thing we would like to quickly address. In the intelligence jargon, this is considered to be reconnaissance. We would like to do some reconnaissance and understand what's going on around us. In the civilian and enterprise market, this is basically background check. Basically, our approach is that most of the information we may need is actually present just out there in the open web. This is just an example, a Facebook page of a person. Now, this is a person that I may want to employ to my insurance company, to my bank, to the national electric company, and so on and so forth. Obviously, I would like to do some sort of background check on this person. Our experience with many customers around the world is that, of course, everyone understands that a person that is being recruited for such a critical facility, such as the national electricity company or what have you, background check is a pivotal part of the operation. De facto, most of these processes are very labor intensive and very manual. So there will be someone in this organization that is just, if someone is trying to recruit me for an institute, they will just go through my Facebook page and check my list of tweets and so on and so forth. Again, this is labor intensive. For me as an analyst and for this HR and recruitment company, this is not very effective, because looking at the 6th page for the same day, I will be completely dazed, and this will not be an effective issue. That said, this is a goldmine, because nowadays everyone is very chatty in their Facebook pages, in the social media, and so on. And the trick, and this is what we will show momentarily, is to try and find a way to have a grasp of the social fingerprint of a person without the labor of going page by page and tweet by tweet and so on and so forth. Challenge number 1. Obviously, next challenge is the net and beyond. And this is a whole world that is beneath the ordinary internet, so to speak. And of course, we're addressing the dark web. The dark web, just in a nutshell, of course, is a part of the internet that is somewhat covert. It's not accessible and not indexed by the different search engines, by Google and Bing and so on and so forth. And since this is more secretive and more difficult to access, this is also where many of the dwellers, of the inhabitants of the dark web, are people that are up to no good. This is quite secretive. They have something to hide, so they do their business in the dark web. On the one hand, this is, again, a gold mine, because lots and lots of semi-legal and illegal activities are conducted in the dark web. On the other hand, again, me as an analyst for my organization that is going to recruit someone or try to understand the arena around me, it's not trivial to access the resources in the dark web and understand what's what and what kind of information is available on the dark web threatening my organization. We've taken the liberty as a preparation for this session with you to do a very brief analysis of information that is available in the dark web, generally concerning facilities in Chile. We spent a couple of hours by one of our analysts. This was the task. Please go through the dark web and try to find some relevant stuff that is available on the dark web. Again, this was done by a foreign analyst. He does not know the exact outline in Chile. He was not situated in Santiago. This is just, and still these are the results we were able to come up with. First of all, lots and lots of information about employees. Of course, we have censored everything. We're not trying to compromise anything or nothing of that sort. Lots and lots of credentials, usernames, and passwords of specific organizations here in the country. Again, this is not specific to Chile. Had we tried to do the same for a different country, I assure you we would have found the same, because this is the nature of the dark web. Now, just imagine the rogue employee from the previous example being recruited into the organization. He's equipped with the username and password of the administrator, and this is his first day at the office. All he needs now is to have the right motivation and the right opportunity, and he can easily access critical infrastructures of the network and of the organization. Again, a result of a couple of hours' work. Next in line, this was also discussed before, lots and lots of stolen credit cards. Again, we don't charge $700 for that, and we don't want anyone to use that. So we hid part of the information, but this is just out there on the web. Complete and ready to use. The number, the expiry date, the CVV, the secret 3 digits at the back of the card, the name of the owner, the bank, the whole thing. had we been up to no good, we can take that, log into eBay or Amazon or whatever, and just start partying on. Again, this is not the intent here. The intent here is to see what kind of information is available out there. Not only employees' data, but also customers' data. So again, this is just a partial list of information of customers, in this context, in this case, customers of a bank. And this is, again, the username and the password that's to be used in order to log into the bank's portal for my account. So again, this information is just open out there. Someone that has malicious intents can just use this information and log into my bank account and start doing mischiefs. Next in line, processes. Again, in the dark web, many hackers and similar dwell, and this is where they try to group and plan the next attack. As part of that, again, we were able to find a group of people that are doing reconnaissance. They're gathering information about IT infrastructures, again, of a certain operation in Chile. This may mean that these people are putting the foundations for some sort of an attack on these infrastructures. So they're starting to collect information, to plot the structure of the network, to find the IP addresses of the servers, and so on and so forth. Again, we start adding. So now we start having the structure of the infrastructure of the network, where we have an employee that we may be able to put into this organization, and we have usernames and passwords for the administrators of this network. So last but not least, these are actually phishing sites that are being, at least late last week when we generated this report. The system at the drop of a hat provides me with the information that the risk meter of this person is high. I can further drill down and understand why it is high. I can see additional information about the social ties of this person and additional information that is available on the social media and some information that is not let's say, naively available. And this is just provided easily. As part of this use, for instance, we can task the system to check this specific person and try to understand whether he may be susceptible for social engineering. Is he gullible, generally as a person? Is he somehow easy to exploit because he's somehow affiliated with the black market or the gray market? So chances are that someone may try to exploit him and get him into our organization to do some mischiefs. Secondly, going through the timeline, the feed, the list of tweets, and so on, we don't want to do the whole thing. We just want to have some sort of a brief summary and understand what's going on with this person versus what's interesting for us. So again, if we are trying to understand whether this person may be motivated to harm our infrastructures because, again, he's gullible, he may be susceptible to social engineering and so on, this is what we will get is just a reduced list of items that may be relevant for this specific task. How do we do that? This is actually the secret ingredient, and this is what we call the contextual narrative. The narrative is what enables the system to provide us the prism through which we look at the person. This prism, this narrative can be criminal behavior. This narrative can be gullibility, someone who may be easily influenced into supporting the attackers. This narrative can be very many different things, and this is something that cannot be generic. The solution obviously is generic. This is something that is actually customized per the requirements and the ecosystem of the organization. Each organization will need to have, as part of the deployment of this solution and alongside with our experts, the narrative will be adopted. And we all understand that such a narrative, let's say again, for an insurance company in Chile will not be the same as a narrative for an insurance company in Mexico. The narrative is basically a collection of words, terminologies, logos, symbols, icons, jargon, and so on, that will allow the system to fine-tune and understand versus the objectives of the organization. What is the risk of this person in the context that we're looking for? Okay, once done, again, we can see this sort of an eye pattern showing the risk of this person in different categories. Again, the categories that are consisting the policy of the organization. We can see brief link analysis, because in many cases it may be the case that the person that we're trying to investigate is okay, but is affiliated with friends that are, again, matched against the narrative, are problematic to our organization. In many cases, this is very relevant, not to look only at the person, but also at his social ties. And further, the solution provides interpretation of the whole feed, the whole product, the whole stream of information, and the interpretation of the specific topic that is of interest for us. This is a type of solution that is quick to use. The whole thing, as you can see, is very user-friendly, and the idea is to allow me as a banker or an employee in an insurance company and so on to run this brief investigation in 3 minutes. This is not a tool for an intelligence officer in an elite organization. This is something very simple and very task-oriented. In terms of cyber intelligence, again, I will not repeat my colleagues before, but we fully agree that the cyber arena is so broad and so deep that it will be presumptuous and arrogant for a vendor, any vendor, to assume that he has best of breed all across. So many vendors, so many products, so many threats, that it's very unlikely to find all the super duper best of breed products under a single rooftop. That's why our business philosophy is hybrid. On the one hand, we have in-house technologies that we're very proud of and we're happy to promote. On the other hand, after understanding the challenges and tasks that are part of the ecosystem of any customer, we consider ourselves to be an integration house. So we are well positioned in terms of understanding the market. We know different solutions, different products, and we have the project-related capabilities in-house in order to integrate different solutions. Of course, we take full responsibility for the whole thing as a project. But again, where we have an added value in terms of our in-house technology, we are happy to provide that. Where needed, we're acting as an integrator and taking full responsibility for the solution A to Z. As part of that, again, in a nutshell, first part is CTI, Cyber Threat Intelligence. This is basically the type of services that result with reports like the ones we've seen before. Very relevant for any organization in order to protect himself from different cyber attacks, to understand the ecosystem, to try and detect group of hackers that are grouping in order to commit some sort of cyber attack on my infrastructures. Part of the CTI is actually providing this kind of information. This can be based on capabilities that are transformed to the organization, to the SOC, to the CISO's team, and so on. And this can be provided as a service. We can provide reports on a pre-agreed intervals, once a week, once a month, whatever the case may be, and the reports can be either proactive, so we run a general scan, understand the menace, and then based on that report, and the report can be based on the specific requests of the customer. Now we would like to strengthen a certain part of our organization. We would like to have a report about information that is available out there considering this vertical. Secondly, the whole world of CyberSOC, MSS, and so on. Again, understanding that we have our in-house technology, but side by side with that, the world is full and packed with excellent technologies. We put ourselves in a position of integrators and cooperate with organizations that would like to get our services in forming these parts of the organization, the CSOC and so on. Cyber training, again, tackling the human factor. Eventually, no matter how high is the pile of technologies you have in your server's room, it's also very important for the personnel that is running this yay high pack of boxes to be informed about the operation of the system, about how to act in different scenarios, and so on and so forth. So in this context, we act as an academy. Again, not bragging about our capabilities, but as mentioned before, unfortunately, many people in Israel have very specific experience in the cyber domain because we live where we live. This gives us an important advantage, and we employ some of these great minds, and we make sure that as part of this academy, we transfer the right knowledge to the right people. Again, understanding the challenges of the customer, what may be of use, providing the training and the certification. Last but not least, endpoint intelligence. Again, just in a nutshell, because the time cop here is giving me signals. Thank you. This is an example of a specific product that can be included in any sort of solution. The menace in this case, and this was previously discussed, is nowadays a CISO and his team have so many agents and so many tools that are running on the different PCs and servers and so on in order to keep the health of the machine alive, that it's very difficult to keep track of everything, and it's very difficult to make sure that everything is in compliance with the organization's policy. So you have the personal firewall that is installed, and the antivirus, and the GPO, and the Linux equivalent, a whole pile of solutions running on the servers. The menace is that many malware components nowadays are capable of, let's say, shutting down the antivirus and continuing to report to the command and control center, everything is okay, I'm alive. This is something that is very difficult to cope with when deployed specifically on the machine. That's why the solution we promote here, for instance, is agentless. It's capable of running remotely. Nothing is installed on the endpoint device. And this is basically the scout. This is patrolling the different endpoints in the network, making sure that everything that needs to be installed is actually installed. Again, what needs to be installed, this is the organization's policy. Part of the solution is to understand the organization's policy, what needs to be installed on the device, on the devices in the network, what must not be installed on the device in the network, and so on, and to continuously scan the different components in the network in order to make sure that everything is in full compliance, providing the right reports, and so on and so forth. All of that, again, remotely and with no agent deployed. So it's not possible to trick the agent because there's no agent. Just in a couple of minutes, in a couple of words, with a very little time we have left, a couple of words about fraud investigation. The idea here is to, again, to be proactive, to predict, to prevent. Here again, the idea is to take advantage of as much information that is available within the organization as possible, but provide the analyst, the end user, again, in a bank, in a company, in a factory, whatever the case may be, provide him with a full picture. The idea here is to have one single pool of big data where all the information available legally and in terms of regulation and so on, everything is part of a single platform. And then there are two layers in this context. The first layer is something that is being taken care of under the hood, and this is the technology. So now we get lots of information, how to deal with it, how to normalize everything, how to canonize everything, how to make sense everything in everything. This is what we do, and of course we can elaborate on a later phase. The second part, which is actually more interesting, is again providing the person with the right analytic tools in order to visualize the challenge and understand what's going on. So again, if we take the example we had at the beginning of information on the dark web, there's just endless amount of information in the dark web. If we just make the data available for a reasonable analyst, he will not know what to do with it and what to start with. The idea with this kind of solution is to provide with tools to visualize the available information and provide a big picture. Again, this is something that is very common for intelligence organizations for many years. Here, this is being used in order to empower organizations that are enterprises and non-governmental. How did I do with time?
Gracias.